We have a very important question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
If chips are cubes...
Oops.
Are they still called chips? I don't think they are. I think they're called potato cubes.
Potato cubes. Definitely more of a mouthful, but I'll take it. I'm enjoying some potato cubes.
Hello and welcome to We Will Manage, the podcast exploring the weird and wonderful world of work. We're two young professionals figuring out our careers one conversation at a time. And today we're diving into the power of our mind.
But before you write us off for hippies, stick around to talk neuroscience, what a sigh is for your brain, and how you can be 5 times more productive.
So today we're talking about something that could be a little controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that as we're getting to our last couple of episodes of the first season of We Will Manage, big thank you to all of our listeners. It's so much fun and we're enjoying it so much and we've had such amazing feedback. But anyway, we'll talk about that at another time. So I thought we could get a little bit personal. I feel like this subject is a little bit more vulnerable than the ones that we tend to talk about, that are a bit more kind of worky, relatively superficial, come to the same conclusions, blah, blah, blah. And here we're going a little bit deeper. Yeah. So we're going to talk about, I've called it spirituality, but I'm not sure if that is the right way to call it. I think it's more about the power of the mind.
Ooh, so exciting.
So as you can see, this is a topic that we are very fond of. But before you think that we're hippies and away with the fairies, I just want to point out that as the scientist that I am, all of the research that I did on the topic was honestly to try and find the science behind it, or anything that was factual and that could actually make sense in our comprehension. So I actually learned so much prepping for this episode. It was so much fun. I did it in a car, in a long car journey. I made myself terribly car sick, but it was worth it.
Not the car
I'm
sickness.
gonna turn on my light.
Ooh.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So I've come up with a lot of neuroscience, which is something that neither of us know anything about.
Nope.
I had to look up a lot of the vocabulary, and the last biology class that we had was together. So that was a very long time ago.
2015?
Something like that. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that we are very down to earth and grounded on the topic, and just it's a fun topic to talk about, and it's something that we're kind of in contact with, and we have our little routines and stuff. So I just wanted to stop everybody from running away because they think we're hippies.
Yeah, give us a chance, and then you can run away at the end if you want.
Exactly. So the first thing I did was, because I originally we talked about talking about spirituality and that on different levels, I just looked up what is commonly associated with the word spirituality, because I wasn't sure it was the right word. And I got 3 key elements. I said 3. I showed 4. It is 4.
It is 4.
Speaking of showing, in case you didn't know, you can also watch us on YouTube. We are also completely live. All of our episodes are on YouTube. We show way more personality than just our voices, if that could be possibly possible. Yeah.
And there's a lot more also just things that we maybe our facial expressions or things we do or say that on the podcast. Sometimes when I listen back, I'm like, we didn't really make that clear what we were on about, because we know what we were on about because it's on the video. But yeah, there is a video version to these episodes.
So just in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
So 4 key elements are commonly associated with the word spirituality. The first one being connection. So connection, this can be to nature, to humanity, to the universe, or to a higher power. So for example, if you're religious and you pray to a god, then this is the spirituality side of it, of connection to that higher power. Second element is meaning and purpose. So a lot of people come to recur to spirituality or practices to try and understand their place in the world, or their significance. Why do I exist? All this kind of thing. And then one that I think speaks the most to us is inner peace and well-being. So that's looking for balance, fulfillment, working internally on how you think and how you work and all of this. So that's a key element that's also associated to spirituality. And then transcendence, which is everything that's a little bit out of the ordinary, insights or experience that go beyond the ordinary perception, seeing things or hearing things and all this.
I once heard this quote thing, which I thought was quite interesting, that said, religion is for those who are afraid or don't want to, I can't remember, go to hell. Mm-hmm. Spirituality is for those who have been through hell.
Wow.
Which I thought was interesting. Interesting way to like differentiate. And just thought it stuck.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we won't go into religion because we don't really have the experience to go into a topic like that. But I think it is an interesting topic to be, if ever we did get someone on that knows a lot about the topic, I would be more than happy to talk about it.
It would be very interesting.
But we're not diving into that today. Today we're going to dive into 3 main subjects that I thought were the most interesting to us, or at least the most interesting to me. And because I prepared it, then you just have to put up with it.
You have to be interested.
So the first one is meditation. The second one is manifestation. And the third one is flow. Your favorite.
Yes, we kind of touched on that in last week's episode. A very little bit. In a very specific sense last week because it was flow at work. But yes, interesting. Okay, let's dive in.
So that's what we're going to talk about. So I just wanted to start off maybe giving a bit of context. So speaking about what environments we've grown up in, what contact have we had, not necessarily your practices today, but kind of your relationship with spirituality from an early age. Is this something that you've been in contact with? Have your parents practiced certain things? Do you come from a religious background? I mean, I spoiled that by saying that we didn't, but that give a bit of context on where your experience and opinions are coming from.
Yeah. So I would say my dad, I don't really think he has any kind of, he's a very logic kind of person, very don't believe it till I see it kind of person. So not that he's closed-minded, but he's not particularly spiritual, I would say. Mm-hmm. Whereas my mum is very open to all that kind of stuff. And I think it probably just comes from working with horses, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that goes on with horses and a lot of things that, even just so you were saying about inner peace, for example, being considered one of the things when people think of spirituality. And that is a very big part in horsemanship, because if you have a lot of stuff going on, it's going to affect you and the horse. So I think it's something that you have to, that is work that you need to do on yourself before you can really properly be successful with working with a horse. So maybe it's to do with that. Maybe she would have...
The world of horses, whenever anybody asks me why I like working with horses, so much of it is that. I mean, obviously I enjoy it, but also you get such a sense of, if the horse can feel it, all the,
which they always can,
my brain and what I'm feeling, and if I'm stressed, or if they say they can smell fear, but they can feel what you're feeling, and they can feel what you're. So I
they're
think
a huge mirror.
Mm-hmm.
They're a huge mirror to, when people say they're fine, if you're not fine, the horse knows, and you can't lie to them. And for example, things like, throughout my childhood, I really believed in magic and things like fairies and stuff like that. For example, I had a little Snow White's and Seven Dwarfs house, like I don't know, like kind of like a Barbie house, I guess, but it was the cottage from Snow White. And I had this routine that I would leave things for the fairies, and then at night they would come take them and then give me something in return, which was normally like a really lovely piece of jewelry or something like that. And this was something that I truly believed was fairies while I was doing it. It was my mum. So she would entertain.
So it was a fairy.
Like so it was a fairy. And we both, as in my mum, and then kind of passed that on to me, like, has witchy books and, just like, and it's not in a delusional way. It's just in a, how can this make life more interesting, and how does it feed in? Also, we were huge fans of Harry Potter. I don't know if that in any way, helps with the magic and the, kind of that world creating of, or just having an open mind. I don't know. Creativity.
Also, I think, if I could jump in there, I don't think saying we were fans of Harry Potter is quite going far enough.
We were. If they'd given out prices.
We lived in an alternate universe based around the wizarding world.
The wizarding world.
Rowling.
Yep. Yeah, we did. And it was a wonderful world to go.
It was an amazing world. I loved it.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that I've always just had present. So I think all those things just led me to have an open mind about it all and know that that is a possibility about it.
Yeah. And like enjoy it and not take it too seriously and just
have a bit of fun. Exactly. Also, one of the YouTubers that I watch quite a lot now, she's a Canadian YouTuber called Kaylee Nicholson. She very much has that kind of thing with spirituality. She, for example, loves tarot cards, but it's in a very like, because it's fun kind of way. She doesn't take things too seriously. It's just to have a bit of fun and I have one deck, and it's because I saw she had them, and I thought they looked gorgeous. The artwork was gorgeous. And yeah, it's something that I sometimes will do for fun. It's like, I'm moving, and I was like just out of fun, I'm going to pull a card for like the move and see what it says, and just it's just fun. It's not something that if it had said anything, I'd be like, oh my God, I've got to change these plans, or this is that, or this means I shouldn't move that day, or it's never going to be that. But it's just, I don't know. Fun
to entertain. Yeah. And in terms of, so if we're talking maybe a bit more about your mom, because she has more of a spiritual personality, let's say. Mm-hmm. Were you ever in contact with her practices? Like, did she meditate or do breath work or something that, that kind of made the world of mindfulness present to you?
Yeah. So she actually, when I was probably early teen, she actually did a course at a place called Humaniversity. That's in Holland, I believe, and in the Netherlands. And that was all focused about practices like meditation. It was basically a place to get to know yourself better, to improve yourself better. I don't know too much. I've heard stories and things that they did there, but I don't know too much about it to go into detail. But because of that, I know that meditation is something that she did practice in her own way. If she had been born now, she'd probably be diagnosed with ADHD or something like that. So she is not the kind of person that can sit still and meditate. So that's also something that because she is so hyper, brain all over the place kind of thing, things like meditation really helped her. But she didn't do them in the traditional sense. So it's also, it's something that she would do, but she wouldn't just sit and meditate. She also has, a lot of the things that she does is very much to calm herself, because she is on such a high speed kind of trajectory with her thoughts and everything. So she does things like listen to mantras and all that kind of stuff. And something that she's very good at doing that I would always experience, that I think she's moved a couple of times over the last couple of years, and hopefully now for the last, because she just bought a place. But whenever she moved, all her spaces always felt the same. In the sense of, she always created a space where, there was things like candles and a space to sit and, meditate or listen to mantras, or like a place to like calm down and create that space around her that is, just gives space for things like that, for rest and all that. So that's something I learned from her whenever not in my first apartment because it was a studio, but every space since, I've always tried to have a space that's for meditation, for, doing my yoga, for, to have a space that's dedicated to calming the mind, because I find that really helpful. The same as I have my desk, which is where I work, well, the same, have a space where it's for
where your brain understands, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think those, and then she's always been open, especially more when I was kind of university age. So later on, I don't remember her doing it earlier, but has done things like go to events where they do like dancey things that are more like spiritually, with like live music that's more that kind of vibe. What's it called? Ecstatic dance, I think it's called.
Eclectic?
I think it's ecstatic, but maybe I'm wrong. It's basically that you dance, but with your eyes closed, and you're supposed to like do what the music kind of, inspires you to do and all that. So things like that, or like, more like music events that are kind of more spiritual. She's also done.
It is ecstatic.
So she has always been open to it, which I think has made me just open to like seeing it as something that is available and an option, basically. Yeah, what about you?
I mean, I think it's funny because I'm a bit the same but opposite. So my mom is more the kind of down to earth, like you say, don't believe it until I see it, that kind of thing. doesn't, it's a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah. Not really drawn to that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, no. Although she does, what is it
Tai
she
Chi?
does now? It's not Tai Chi, it's
She always just says she's going to
something like
yoga.
Tai Chi.
But maybe it's...
She also does yoga.
Oh, she also does yoga.
I mean, I might be kind of pushing it a bit. I think she's maybe a little bit open to it, but more on I want to relax and move my body kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas my dad was a bit more, I'd say, open to the possibilities of, it being, not being it just what you say is what goes, and the mind doesn't really matter or whatever. I think he did a bit of like hypnotism courses and stuff, which are actually, I've recently learned they're used in the medical domain now. Like hypnotism is properly used by doctors.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I mean, that kind of thing. And he was also a big storyteller, and it just kind of opens your mind to maybe it's
other options.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe it's not exactly what we think. So I was never particularly, like, I was open to trying things. Like meditation, things like this. I was never against it. I was never, I don't know, I wouldn't say I thought that there was something more or something like that, and I think I can still be a bit more like my mum in that sense.
More skeptical.
Or I do have a tendency to try and find the understanding. Like, if this is working, why is that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the take I've gone for this episode prep, because I feel like it kind of brings everybody onto the same topic. Because if you're not at all into spirituality, then maybe you're curious to hear if there's any evidence behind any of the things that we're talking about. And if you are into spirituality, it's really interesting to hear how that can actually properly make an impact in your body, and why that changes how we work. Not work as in work, but work as in our body functions.
Yeah, I think also now spirituality is thrown over a lot of things, just like as a huge wide net to just like, spirituality is all these things. And I think in so many cases, things like meditation, which sounds so like, meditation, it's all in an effort, at least the things that I feel that I'm drawn to, it's all in an effort to kind of have your mind slow down and focus on your body, because I feel like we are so in our heads nowadays. We are such mind creatures that very often, like the other day, for example, I said to my boyfriend, I said, we have to, we've only got an hour to make dinner. Are you hungry? Or, we had a late lunch. Would you rather not eat? And he was like, well, I don't know. From now to an hour, I don't know. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm like,
I have to plan.
Not hungry. Well, I'm not. I was like, well, I'm not hungry, and I know that I won't be, but I'll be fine with a snack. And he was like, well, I'm not as in tune with my body as you are. And, and it's lit, but, and I like laughed, but it's so true nowadays that people just aren't, that they don't even, that connection is very, very weak, I think, in with a lot of people. And anything that's meditation, breath work, anything like that takes us out of our mind and into our bodies. Yeah. And some people say that things like doing their sport is a meditation, and I think that's completely valid. Like, meditation doesn't have to be sitting cross-legged, doing whatever. It's anything in my mind, anything in my opinion, anything that gets you out of your mind into your body. And it's all things that are just kind of not made fun of, but like a lot of people in society will just, put their nose up and be like, oh, meditation, that's so, wishy-washy, like you said at the beginning. And I just really do not see it like that. Like, yeah, it's I think all about perspective, but yeah. Go on.
Absolutely. But I think you're so right in a way that in today's world, we are so overstimulated. I mean, I was talking about just earlier that my partner's decided to try and not look at screens for a week. I mean, except for work, to not look at videos and social media and
content,
all of this.
Basically.
Because we're just so overstimulated all the time. We never get bored. And just forcing yourself to sit down and just stop thinking for a second and just feel your body does not happen very often if you don't force yourself to do it. And like you say, you can then, maybe you haven't realized that you've got a sore shoulder, and just because you've been doing it, and then you sit down and you're like, and it's just that moment of giving yourself some space to feel, or just stop thinking so much.
Thinking.
And I think
Thinking. Yeah. Get out of your head. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, we're kind of going on to the topic automatically of meditation, because I think this is a practice that we both do, either more frequently or less frequently. We've both done in the past. And I think it's it's the number one practice that I use, at least, to give myself that break and try and stay more grounded and connected to my body. And it's honestly a tool that I use to try and live better, to be less stressed and to be more present. So I'm going to ask you about your practices and everything and what you do. But first, I'm going to give the definition or where it comes from, just to give people context in case there's anybody that doesn't really know what meditation actually is, which I feel like it may sound silly, but so many people just assume what it is and don't really know necessarily what it is. So
the same as spirituality, and so many of the words I'm sure we're going to be talking about today is something that's so frequently used. And I feel like certain people give it a bad rep, and they just seem to also be the loudest. So people who aren't very informed have these people at the front of their mind, but there's, annoying, let's say, to not say a worse word, people in everything, and that's just how it is. But yeah, I think spirituality, we were talking when we did the investing episode a lot about buzzwords. I feel like spirituality and meditation are definitely buzzwords in today's day and age. And like you say, the meaning might get lost. So yeah, give us a definition.
Yeah, you've actually just reminded me something that I thought about earlier that I'll just drop in, is that I think it is used a lot more, like meditation and spirituality in today's world. I feel like people are getting less afraid of it. And I think that's a lot to do with how much more we're talking about mental health, because it's a lot about mental health. So yeah, meditation, it has its roots in ancient religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, but it's now seen in modern practices like something that I didn't know existed, which, as a concept, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR for short, mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that was developed by John Kabat-Zinn in the 70s. So it's been around as like a modern concept since the 70s and used as a tool to reduce stress. So what exactly is meditation? It's a mental practice that involves training your attention and awareness to achieve a state of clarity, calm, and focused presence. So maybe if you have meditated before, which I know you have, would you like to kind of describe what it is and what it's like for you, like what your experience is of meditating, and then you can meditating, and then you can tell us a bit more about if you use it, is it a tool that you use, and for what?
So I think talking also about the accessibility of meditation, I think it also comes down to there being more platforms and apps that you can use. So I know we both use, unsponsored, we both use Headspace. I almost said Headway there. Headspace. Very unsponsored. We both use Headspace, and I like to use it in the mornings. Sometimes I use it in the evenings. And for me, it's really a way to, like I was saying before, quiet my mind. I don't know if it's because of the kind of person I am, or if it is because of being a business owner, or it is because of being someone who does just like take on a lot of projects, and they all are I feel very passionately about all of them. So maybe, I don't know, but I can very easily have constant thinking going on in my brain without even realizing it, and without it being necessarily a bad thing. I know some people do really struggle with like negative self-talk and all that. I definitely have my bad days and do that, but it's not that I'm talking about. It's just constantly thinking, oh, I need to do this and then this and then this, and it's for different projects, and it's something that I am excited about and do enjoy. But then it is true that I can get very just disconnected and very tired without realizing why, and that's normally the reason why. And when I do it in the evenings, it's because I can't disconnect. Even if I've stopped working for an hour, I'm still thinking, I'm still trying to, wanting to check my email. I'm still not stopping. And there was a few days where I realized that I was lying awake for like hours in bed thinking I was asleep, but I was still thinking. And I know right now I'm planning a very big move because I'm moving out of the country I have lived in my whole life. So, I have moved from place to place, but this is a very big move because I'm not only moving, like I say, out of the country I've always lived in, I'm also having to leave everything I can't leave anything behind kind of thing, because my parents are selling the house, our childhood home. So everything has to be left organized. So a lot is going on. And as I've done meditation quite a lot, it's come and gone with how consistent it is. Yeah. Sometimes I'll have a few months where it's every single day. Other times, not so much. It's more when I feel like I need it. And because I have done it for so many years, I think the first time I did it, I was in university. I think it might have been 2017 or something like that. I can go into it very easily. I've also always used Headspace, which means that I kind of know the structure they use, so I can very quickly get into it.
Yeah, you're familiar.
Something that they do at the beginning of most meditations that I absolutely love, because it really does get me from my mind and get my mind to slow down and focus on my body, is kind of the body check. So they just say, go from head to toe, slowly check in with your body. How's it feeling without judgment? So don't be like, why is this so tired, or why does this hurt? No, just acknowledge it and go and see how your body's feeling. And I find that so helpful, so helpful. And it really gets me into the meditation. And it's something that when I do feel stressed, I will do. They do like the breathing of like breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 7, I think it is, which is something that I'll very often do. Box breathing, there you go. Something that I'll very often do, like when I can't sleep, but I'm not going to meditate or whatever. And that, like I say, it's like my body knows
I'm going to give you a new tool today.
My body knows those kind of, what's the word? Not commands, but like something that, okay, we're doing this now.
Triggers.
I love it, to be honest. It's something that I do wish I could be consistent with all the time. I know I have been very hectic over the past year. I haven't really had a routine. So maybe when I do finally get into a routine, then it can be part of my routine and it can be more consistent again. Because I definitely notice the difference on the days that I do and the days that I don't. But like I said, I feel like
that a little bit. Like, could you explain how you feel difference in yourself? Like, maybe not only just in the moment that you're meditating, where you are giving yourself a break and maybe giving yourself a little moment to relax and bring down the stress level or bring down the voices. Outside of meditation, do you feel a difference when you're being consistent with it?
I feel it most in not catching myself before something makes me anxious is where I notice it the most, I would say. So if I do it in the mornings, which is my preferred time to do it, very often if I do it in the evenings, as my body does know it so well, I will very often fall asleep, which is not the point of meditation. But as I do it can be. But it's something that I do when I'm struggling to sleep because I'm so overthinking. So as soon as I turn an episode on and I start a session or whatever you want to call it, and I start doing it, my mind goes, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. And it just completely relaxes and it's like, and I'm asleep. So I definitely get the most out of it in the mornings, which is when I prefer to do it. And I feel that day I will notice when I'm getting stressed or anxious a lot sooner and be able to take a break. Something they also said in one session once when I did a meditation was to try and kind of just to check in with yourself in a very easy way, was to like acknowledge when you move. So if you're sat working, like acknowledge when you stand up, when you sit down. So hard to do, but it's the kind of thing.
I couldn't be aware when I was standing up and sitting down. It was impossible.
Yeah, and it's like such a stupid thing that you think, how am I not being able to do this? But it's when I have meditated, those kind of things are kind of at the forefront of my mind. Like I'm more aware of what I'm doing and I feel like I'm less on autopilot, I guess I would say.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think my story is very, very similar. So I first started meditating. I'm pretty sure you recommended Headspace to me, which is what I started with. Also, I'd say in 2017, it was my second year at university, which was a really tough year at university for me for many different things. My living situation wasn't amazing. I had friends going through tough things and just the work was really, really hard. And I was really stressed and putting loads of pressure on myself to succeed. And had a pretty tough time. I'd say it was one of my worst years to date. But I got through it and I did use meditation a lot during that. I would do it every evening. And I think that really did help me get through that. But since then, a lot like you, I've only really recurred to it when I felt like I needed it, which
is not
usually, it's usually when
I say it for myself as well,
it's usually when you're a little bit burnt out or getting, putting too much work, putting too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah. I saw something the other day that I put on our story. It was just an image of like a battery that was full, a battery that was like a third full in orange and then one that was red. And it said, take a break at this point. In the orange one, not at this point when you're at burnout already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think up until relatively recently, I would do that. I would get down to not feeling good and feeling anxious, and I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And that's when I would recur to meditation. And I wasn't very regular with it. But since this year, so I went on a trip at the end of last year, which was honestly pretty reformative. I think it changed a lot how my perspective and my priorities, and I learned a lot about myself. It wasn't supposed to be a spiritual retreat, but it ended up being a bit like one, because I spent a lot of time on my own, far from other humans, and I had no electricity, no connection. I only had my brain and myself. And at the beginning I was very, very anxious, and I really struggled. And then I managed to work through that and came out the other side really happy. I really worked through a lot of things. And since then, I have meditated every morning pretty much ever since.
Wow.
So that's like six and a half months ago now. I mean, I've had days that I haven't been able to, but I managed to get it into my schedule. On my weekdays, I wouldn't meditate on my weekend because, like you say, it's really difficult to do it if you can't put it in your schedule somehow.
Yeah.
So I would do it every morning before breakfast, because also, same as you, if I do it in the evening, I just fall asleep and I don't really get that much benefit out of it, which is also like you, I use it as a tool for that sometimes, but it's not where I feel.
Headspace does have some kind of sessions to help you get to sleep. Like the idea is to be able to turn off. So I will try and put those on rather than like a regular meditation. But yeah, like you say, it's not the way to get the most out of it.
I think the real difference that I feel when I'm consistent with it, and something that I've really felt since I've been doing it so consistently since the beginning of this year, and also starting from a good baseline, because at that point I was happy and not burnt out and not overstressed. So I was able to start on that good level and then check in with myself and maintain that. And I feel like it makes a big difference in how I'm able to cope with situations. I'm able to not be reactive. I'm able to, kind of separate myself from a situation that doesn't need me to be stressed. Like, I'm not saving lives. I'm just dealing with people in my everyday life, and, trying to really keep that mindfulness and consciousness of the effects of your actions and all of this kind of thing. And it's just made my reactions better, and I think I've gained a lot of maturity in how I deal with certain situations. And I do think a lot of that has come from having that moment to check in on myself, to kind of recalibrate, which is a whole other story. I had this kind of thing happen to me during my trip where my brain was like, oh, but meditation is just recalibration. It's just, you have your priorities, but then life takes you in all of these different directions, and you have all of these things to worry about. And then one day my brain was just like, meditation is just recalibrating. It's just you remembering, oh, these are my priorities, and this is what is really important, and everything else, it's just ways to get there, So that's my relationship with meditation. I do recommend it to a lot of people that I think could use it, and it's a tool. It's nothing wishy-washy, and it's hard. It's really not easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And I knew someone who, she did a lot of breathwork stuff. And she said things like breathwork, meditation, like all these things, and even things inside of each of these things. So inside of meditation, you have lots of different, like you said, activities, different tools, I guess. And she said, think of it as a toolbox that you are just assembling, for your mind. And I think also with, what we were saying about that, sometimes you used to, and I sometimes still do, kind of fall out of it and only do it when you need it. I mean, it's a little bit like if you say, like, I'm going to work out and get really fit, and then once I get fit, that's it, I'm fit, so I don't need to do it anymore. And then you obviously get unfit, so it doesn't make sense. But that's how we think of anything to do with the mind. It's like, oh, I've achieved it, I can stop doing it now. And it's things that need constant care, the same as your body in anything you do. Or I'm going to eat healthy, and then when you've been eating healthy for a while, you're just like, oh well, I don't need to eat healthy anymore.
I'm healthy now.
It's like, no, that's not the point.
Absolutely. And I actually have neuroscientific explanations to back up what you just said.
Oh, nice.
So I was looking up studies that have been done on meditation relatively recently. So 2005, 2007, Azar and Tang. We can maybe link them somewhere. But so studies using MRI, which are brain scans, they show when you use parts of your brain, I had to look this up because I didn't know how they worked. When you use parts of your brain, these parts of your brain require more oxygen. So the same way that when you do sport, then you breathe heavier because you need more oxygen to move your body. So brain does the same thing. Brain. brain does the same thing. So that's
Brain
how
does the
MRIs
same.
work.
I didn't know that.
So basically, when they study a brain of somebody that's doing something specific, the parts of the brain on their scan that are being used light up. Like they show more use of oxygen. So that's how they look at what different activities and how that affects brains. So studies were done on long-term meditators, so people that meditate consistently for a relatively long time. And they showed that increased gray matter, which I also looked up what it is. So gray matter is parts of your brain that are rich in neuron cells. So the bits that do the thinking, basically.
Right. It doesn't sound good, but it is.
It is. It's great. It's what does all your thinking. It's how you work. It's how you function. Yeah, they saw that there's increased gray matter in areas related to, so in long-term meditators, increased gray matter in areas related to self-regulation, so regulating your emotions, attention and emotional processing. And for the neurobiologists out there, because I know that we have a couple in our surroundings, that's the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. So they're the parts of your brain that do everything that comes to self-regulation, emotional processing, and attention. So your attention on certain subjects. And also short-term meditation training, as little as 5 days, showed to improve attention and self-regulation. So you don't have to be doing it for months and months and months for it to make a difference. And I think we can both attest to this. After maybe a week of doing it, we already feel a bit of a difference. And then what you were saying about the muscle, in long-term meditators, you can see a thicker cortex, which is more gray matter in particular areas. So more neurons that do the thinking. In the areas that are related to focus, memory, emotional intelligence, empathy, all of these parts of your brain that make you a good person that functions well. So in long-term meditators, you build up this muscle in these areas that you can then use in your everyday situations. So that's how meditation can be brought into your life. It's not just bringing down your stress levels, which is also a big part of it, but it also builds a muscle in the parts of your brain that make you a better person.
In next week's episode, we're talking about trust in the workplace, and empathy is a huge part of that. Oh yeah, interesting. Okay.
So that's what we've got on meditation. I actually looked something up because I thought when I first heard, obviously Buddha is the person that we think of that's the Buddhist, leader. Yeah. And I wondered, because he was such a good meditator, I wondered, was he a really good leader? And he was. I mean, I think this is probably seems obvious because he's such a figure, but lots of studies have been done on how he was such a brilliant leader. And then I came across this quote that I loved. I absolutely loved it. And it's not by Buddha, but it was referring to Buddha by the person that said it, which was Lao Tzu, so Tzu.
My mum has lots of quotes from him.
You've maybe heard this already, but I loved it. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." I love that.
Love it so much.
So that's all we've got on the meditation topic. I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So we're not going to. But if you want to hear more, or you want tips on how to get into meditation or anything like that, hit us up and we would be happy to share. Yeah. Also our experiences and other people around us.
Yeah. And we can also always do a short episode about it if there's interest.
We can keep it short.
Yes. By short episode, I mean we will manage Mondays, which, by the way, this Monday, so 3 days ago, our second one came out. If you've seen it, leave a comment. Leave a comment on the episode on the We Will Manage
best episode of the podcast so far.
We enjoyed it so much. It's the first and only episode that we've recorded together in person, and it was so fun, so hilarious. So if you hadn't seen it, it came out a few days ago. So yeah. Anyway,
let us know what you think. It was so much fun.
So much fun.
So then moving on to our second topic of the day. I feel like this is going to be our longest podcast episode yet. We're going to talk about manifestation. So manifestation is another thing that at first glance can be quite judged by people.
I think still to this day, I think more so than meditation. I think meditation has made more progress than manifestation. I think manifestation is still seen a much more kind of wishy-washy than meditation. in
Yeah, I think
2025.
meditation is started to be used in mental health and as a tool to get stress levels down and everything. Whereas manifestation, not so much, because it's more about achieving things and less about just how you feel. So to start off in the same way, manifestation, it's often associated now, which I didn't actually know, with what's called the law of attraction, which was a concept that gained popularity through the book The Secret. Have you read this book?
I started trying to, just because I was curious. I started it and I couldn't get through it. I found it too wishy-washy, too like you're just talking nonsense. And
Yeah.
like we've already established, I'm not a person who is closed off to these kind of things. And The Secret, I just couldn't do it. I found myself like rolling my eyes and not really believing. Like there are some good points in that book. I'm not going to deny that. But I don't know if it's just the way that it was conveyed or what. I just couldn't get into it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it happened to me a lot doing research for this podcast. I mean, I couldn't find any videos that seemed at all listenable
Yeah.
on any of these subjects. Like, I mean, meditation, yes, but manifestation, oh.
I think that's the problem. I think with manifestation, it's something that it has very much, maybe because of The Secret, been taken on by a lot of people. And I think it's done as a very delusional way. It's like thing. So my mom knows quite a few people that are just will say such annoying things, and it comes from that kind of like manifestation kind of law of attraction kind of vibe of things like, well, like the universe didn't think that this was what and it's just those are the kind of people that will go on the internet and make these videos that people then see and create opinions about manifestation. And it's just very, I find, just delusional. Like when people use it, delusional people use it, it becomes just kind of ridiculous. Because I think there is a lot of power in it. But yeah, it's not like I'm going to just hand over everything to the universe as if the universe cares about you as a single human, which it doesn't, and just kind of put your hands up and be like, well, when it has to happen, it'll happen. That's not manifestation. That is not the law of attraction. Just saying a little mantra in the morning every morning isn't going to do anything if you just do that. But yeah, carry on.
So yeah, just to finish off the origin, it actually comes from the New Thought philosophy that was established in the 19th century in the US of A. And it suggests that visualizing goals and maintaining positive thoughts that can attract desired outcomes. So I think you can probably guess that our take on this is slightly different. I did look up a definition of what manifestation is considered overall. So manifestation is the practice of intentionally focusing your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs on a desired outcome with the aim of influencing your actions and mindset in a way that helps bring that outcome into reality. So that's more of our vision of it. So I think for both of us, obviously talk for yourself, but manifestation is more about getting your goals sorted and putting that out there, whether it's down on a piece of paper or just spoken or even just clearly turned into words in your mind, in the aim that your decisions and your actions will then get you closer to that goal. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you were talking about it, I was thinking, goals in the sense of it's hard to achieve something, to get something, if you haven't even clearly thought that that's what you want. Things could happen. Things can just randomly fall on your lap and you can go, oh yeah. But like in general, life just isn't like that, because if you're in a routine and this is what you do and this is how you do it and other things outside of that routine, it happening is unlikely. So if you say, for example, this year I want to go to a new continent. I have never been to Africa. This year I want to go to Africa. If you have that as a goal, then you will do things like look at flights, look at accommodation. If you don't, the chances of you ending up in Africa, slim.
Relatively slim.
Yeah, who knows? A family member could say, I'm taking you to Africa next week. And you'd be like, great. And you didn't do anything. That can always happen. But for me, manifestation is just more of sitting down and being like, what do I want? Or what goals do I want to achieve, whatever, and what do I need to do in order to get them? And then you find a way to incorporate them into your lives. So that's where I think the big difference is, where these people are just throwing things out there and then not doing anything about them, versus throwing them out there, and having it be a clear intention. I feel like if you also are thinking these things, then you will show up in places that then might connect you to the right people, that then will make it look or feel like it's just fate. But it isn't, because you have been in some way or other working,
Yeah,
even
you
if you've just said,
consciously-
even if you've just said this goal out loud to the right person that has then thought, oh, well, I know someone who, and then, that could then lead somewhere. So I think that's the difference. I think it's just being really clear on what you want to then be able to break it down and bring it into your life.
Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking about how to explain this, my first kind of reaction was to say, have you ever actually tried writing down your goals? Because it could sound super obvious. Like maybe your goal is obviously to get that promotion, or to buy yourself a house, or to go on that trip, or to found a company, or whatever.
Or to get fit, or anything, just
Exactly.
anything, yeah.
Have you tried writing them down? Because it sounds obvious, but actually when you sit there and ask yourself, what are my goals? In my personal experience, it's not that easy. Like it doesn't just come automatically. My goal is, I want to be happy. I want to have a good life. What does that mean? What does that mean for you? And then if you just make that clear for yourself, exactly. If you make that clear for yourself, then you can start making a plan. But even just writing out those goals and analyzing them and realize, is this really what I want? Is this really what's going to make me happy? Yeah. Just doing that work, I think, changes your mindset so much. So I think that's a really good place to start, is just writing out what you want your goals to be. So that's part of manifestation. And then I kind of looked into what other aspects there are in the world of manifestation. But first, I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever manifested something, either with a vision board or writing down your goals, and it come true?
Nothing specific is coming to mind. I have, especially when I was at university, I was a very big fan of vision boards. And that's something actually that my mum used to do. I don't know if she still does actually, but she used to do. I remember seeing her vision board home when I was growing up. And it's something that I just found really fun to do. I've also always done like scrapbooking and stuff like that. So it's very along the same kind of line. I mean, I have made goals. So for example, things like traveling. That's why going to a new continent came to mind, because traveling is something that to different places that I had. For example, India was always a big on my to-do list because I'd heard a lot of stories from my parents about it.
Is that how you chose your partner? Was that just your manifestation?
Yep. If you just heard that was Knox bursting through the door. Yeah, so nothing like big is coming to mind, but I definitely would, I think especially when I started off my business, things like that, it would be goals, kind of month to month goals. So, achieve this many clients, do this. And it's things that on a whole, maybe not always in the time frame that I'd wanted or had initially planned out for, but there are things that would happen generally. I'm not really one of those people who sets New Year's resolutions, because I don't normally, I don't know. I don't think it's a way to, I think most people can say that they forget their New Year's resolutions within the first week or two of the year. So, but to do kind of goals, one thing that I think my mum maybe told me once, is that your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. And I think that's a big part of manifestation. So if you're telling yourself things like, I will get these 5 clients and because I am a good business person, your mind, if you say it enough in a way that you do actually begin to believe it, then your mind will actually believe it, and then that will change how you move in the world. But yeah, there's no one big thing, I guess. Yeah, just with things like with my business, with traveling.
You're setting me up perfectly for the next subjects of discussion.
Perfect.
You honestly couldn't do it better if you tried. But before getting into that, I just wanted to give my own experience. So I think the first time that I properly did an exercise of manifestation it was 2 Christmases ago. So I was at the family house for Christmas and I didn't have anything, I wasn't stressed. I didn't have to do tasks. So I sat and I wrote. I was kind of questioning what I wanted to do in my life, what direction I wanted to go. So I did this big writing spree. I love to write. So I did that over a couple of days. And I would say that was my first time properly doing a manifestation exercise. So I wrote out what I thought my goals would be, what I thought would make me happy, and trying to really think about what life would be if they came true, you know, and really putting myself in that place. And one of the main things that went onto that written piece of work that I really didn't expect was starting a company. And that's something that happened, I think, 3 months later. The decision was made. I mean, the first conversation was had. So maybe I kind of was thinking about it, but honestly, consciously, I didn't think that I would end up starting a company, because it was a topic that I would bring up with my friends. Like, would you like to be the boss? What do you think about that? I mean, you'd have all the responsibility. And I would kind of bring the topic up with my friends, kind of unseriously. And I remember probably talking with you about it, because you're kind of my example for somebody that's their own boss.
Yeah.
I really juggled with the idea, and I spoke about it with different people. And then through what I wrote, I kind of went through why I thought that it would make me happy and the things that maybe put me off it. But the conclusion was, one day I think I want to start something of my own. And then that year it happened, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then I've spoken to a close friend of ours that we have in common, and she's told me that her first time manifesting and properly writing out her objectives and everything was about a year ago now, and a lot of that has come true for her. And I just think it is a really powerful tool. So obviously I looked up the scientific side of things and why that is the case.
Yes. Give it to me, please.
So what I found was, while the metaphysical claims, so these supernatural claims, don't have much support, they lack empirical support, lots of elements of what we consider manifestation overlap with evidence-based practices. So one of them is mental contrasting. I don't know if you know this subject. I didn't. No. But it's basically, you combine visualization, so picturing your goals, picturing yourself if they were to come true, what your life would be like in that situation, and then combining that with an assessment of obstacles. So this is what I want, this is what life will be like once I've got it. And then next you would say, okay, what's in my way? So really practically thinking about what is standing in my way now of getting to that goal, even if it's a small thing, even if it's a massive thing, you know, just starting to work with what are the obstacles that I can encounter and what am I going to do about that, or what would I do with that about that if it were to arise. So that's mental contrasting. And then self-affirmation theory, which is what you were saying about convincing your brain that you are capable and that you're good enough and that you're going to be able to reach those goals. That's something that's also been studied. So how does it work in the brain itself? Again, we're going into our brain scans with parts of our brain that use more oxygen. So MRIs, these brain scans, show that simply imagining a movement lights up the premotor and parietal areas, so the bits of your brain that plan real movements. So like you say, your brain doesn't really make much of a difference between what's real and what you're just thinking of. So if you think of moving your arm, the part of your brain that makes your arm move is already lighting up.
Fired up.
So you're already rehearsing your goal. If you're rehearsing your goal and your objective, you're already activating the parts of your brain that will be used once that's accomplished. Yeah. So you're like building up the muscles. Yeah. And your brain is thinking that it's possibly already true.
Yeah. This is something that my mom uses a lot with horse riding. So if someone is scared of something, somebody's had a bad experience, before getting on the horse, she will say, standing next to the horse, she'll say, okay, now close your eyes and imagine riding around the arena and nothing goes wrong, you know, and everything goes well and you're in tune with the horse and everything's going smoothly and the horse is listening to you and you're listening to the horse, and just imagine that. And then she gets them to get on and go around, and it makes such a difference because you're like set up in a different way, you know, your mind's like ready for it. It's very interesting.
And then along with that, if you're imagining that going the way that you want, that'll also activate dopamine. So it's a dopamine drip. So anticipating a valued goal triggers dopamine release in the striatum, whatever that is, part of your brain. And that's the same chemical that drives motivation and learning. Just imagining achieving your goal is going to drive your brain into motivation and getting it done mode, basically.
Love it.
And then about self-affirmation, reframing yourself as capable, that dampens threat signals in your brain and that frees up mental bandwidth to be able to function not under stress, not under you bad talking yourself. If you try to convince yourself that you're capable you're going to kind of trick your mind into being less stressed about that, about not being good enough. And then you will have the space to become good enough. It could probably be explained in a more scientific term, but
I mean,
we're doing what we can.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's necessary. I think this will help a lot of people.
So that's all of the manifestation data I managed to gather.
One thing while you were speaking there that I realized, I guess, is maybe the most obvious thing that I kind of had on my wish list, goal list, whatever you want to call it, for a long time, and then I did manage to do it, was probably the whole traveling around in a van thing. That's something that I had as a goal for a very, very long time. It happened not because it was on my goal list for a long time. It happened because one day I was like, right, what do I need to do to make this happen? And then, from there, I then took the steps and it took a long time before I even looked for a van, but it was the small steps. And yeah. And that was something that so many people would say to me, oh, that's so amazing. I wish I could do that. And it's very much, nothing makes me special in that sense. I have no idea how to do a van. I have a lot of circumstances that helped me be able to do it. But yeah, it's not like I am particularly rich. I'm not particularly, well versed in converting a van. I don't have much. I had no experience driving a van or anything bigger than a small car. So it was all things of just, saying, no, this is something I want to do and I'm going to be able to do it. So that's probably the biggest, as in clearest kind of, this is something I wanted, if you want to call it, manifested it, and I managed to achieve it and do it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it really is powerful to just get it out there and make it specific in your mind that it's something that you want and you want it now.
Yeah.
Or you want it at a certain point in time. Like, bring it to reality, and that's what's going to get your brain doing the right things for it to happen.
And I think also it's kind of making that decision in your brain of going from this is something I would like to do to this is something I'm going to do. Another example kind of is I'd always said, oh, I'd love to learn to surf. And then one summer I said to my dad, should we go surfing? Like what's actually stopping us? We live in the south of Spain, very close to Portugal, which is a great place to surf. Like, I've never even been to Portugal. Like, should we just go and do it? And we did. And like, it was that easy to just go and do it. But so often it's just, we do have these things of, oh, that would be so nice, or that would be great, or I would love to. But then we don't actually sit down and maybe do the manifesting, if you want to call it that way, of sitting down and saying, okay, so this is something I actually do want to do. I'm not just saying that I would like to. What can I do to get this done? In our case, it was drive to Portugal, which took 6 hours.
Yeah. I remember sending you a message one day. I think I'd been living in Switzerland for about 2 years. And I was like, oh, Bean, I just really want to start riding again. I don't have time. I know I don't have time to have a horse or to get a horse or to start doing anything horsey, but I really want to do it. And you were the only person that said to me, just do it. Everybody else was like, sounds like a bit too much, because I was looking, everyone else I asked. And you were like, oh, no, go do it. And I did. And I figured out what existed, how I could spend time with horses. And I looked it up and I spoke to people. And now for over a year now, I've been going to see my lovely horse, Charlie, that did buck me off the other day, but we're getting through that.
Oh, Charlie.
Charlie. So manifest, make it an objective and not just something I would like to do. And it's more likely to happen.
Turn it into action, basically.
Brain science.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Oh, I loved hearing the science on that, because manifestation is definitely something that even I feel a bit like about sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, a lot of it is also like this building this muscle. So if you practice the situation or the obstacles that you'll be in contact with, you are training yourself for when that happens, and then you're more likely to be able to achieve them.
Yeah. Something I definitely got from my mom, and that is sometimes not a good thing, is I love to do that. So like, for example, I am planning to move to London, and sometimes when I can't sleep, the reason I can't sleep is because I'm imagining what life is going to look like in London, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm thinking of like all these things that I've looked into that I want to do.
I think that's a big part of it, and just having that positive mindset and having that motivation.
And it's that excitement, and I'm just like imagining, and it's something that I used to do when I was young. Actually, when I couldn't sleep, I would go through my routine of the next day, detail by detail to help me get to sleep. So I would be like, okay, so tomorrow my alarm goes off, I'm going to get out of bed, I'm going to make my bed, then I'll go and I'll wash my face. And then I would like picture what I was going to wear, picture me like putting my socks on, like everything, and that would just eventually I would drift off. So it's something that I've always like that, like imagining what the future is going to look like is something that I've always done. And sometimes I get too excited, which is what has been happening recently because I'm so excited about this move and I just want to get here. So I'm like picturing all the things because I've done a lot of research, obviously, being my type A personality that I am, into all the things I want to do. And I've looked up places that I could maybe go horse riding, I could maybe do dancing, I could, the studio spaces I can use, like all sorts. So yeah, like picturing what my life is going to look like there, is something that I'm thinking about a lot when I have a free moment, which is normally when I'm trying to get to sleep.
It is, though, because it's the only time in your day that you stop being stimulated, isn't it? I mean, that's so many subjects that I would love to
So many
to.
subjects.
But just to touch on what you just said, I do think that having that positive mindset and having and imagining how good it could be when it happens, like I'm a sucker for that too. I think that has played a big role in us getting the places that we are, because we put energy into imagining being that place, and then that motivates us to then work towards it. Like I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody that was having a really tough time in finding motivation to do the things they needed to do to obtain their goals. First of all, my question for them are, what are your goals? What is going to make you happy? And then I realized that they had a tendency to, instead of think, this is where I could be and it will be amazing, they were more concentrated on, this is what's standing in my way, and this is why this isn't going to work, and this is why that isn't going to work. And I was like, there's no way that you're going to be able to find motivation if you're just thinking about the negatives. And we managed to turn that all around. It was super interesting interaction. But yeah, I'm just
my partner do it. My partner can be a bit like that. He can get a bit bogged down with I think that sometimes there's a good way that we balance each other out, because I definitely do think of the things that might be a bit more difficult and a bit more challenging, but I do let myself get more carried away by the good things and the positive things, which I think is a big part of, I think you have to kind of be like that to start your own business, and if not, you just wouldn't do it. Like I think when we actually recorded that We Will Manage episode, you said that if you were to put like a baby into a spreadsheet, you wouldn't do it, because some things are just so crazy that if you do kind of stop too much to think about them, you might not do it because the stats may not be in your favor. But he can be a bit the other way around, where he gets so engulfed by, but like, what if all these things go wrong, that he kind of doesn't want to give himself space to think about the good things. You know, it's on. So yeah, it's an interesting. I mean,
it's a defense mechanism, but I do think that it shows how your mindset and what you do establish as your goals and how capable you are of getting there does make a massive difference in just simply having the energy and the motivation to do what you need to do to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get into the last topic of the day, I thought instead of playing a game, we're going to do something a little bit different.
Okay.
So if you don't want to do it as a listener, you can always skip through it. But since you're here,
you're here anyway,
we're going to do a 60-second reset. So to show yourself how fast your brain and body can shift when you give it a little bit of direction. So no matter where you are, whether you're commuting or you're cleaning, you don't have to close your eyes or anything. You just, if you can, then that's great. But just be present in whatever you're doing, and go with the direction, okay? You can do it too. You're allowed to close your eyes.
Okay.
You're not walking anywhere. You're not going to fall off a cliff.
No, not walking or driving. So
we're going to start with, you're going to take a big inhale through your nose. And now you're going to take a second smaller inhale right on top of it. And now exhale slowly through your mouth. This is called a psychological sigh. And that's your brain's natural reset button. Now you're going to imagine one goal that you're working on. So it can be something small, something that you want to be finished by the end of the day, by the end of the week. Or it can be something big, like a big goal, like getting promoted or achieving something. And now you're going to picture it done. You've achieved it. Imagine how it would feel. You've done it, and hold that image for just a few seconds. Now we're going to contrast it. And you're just going to think of one thing that's standing in the way today. Is it a lack of time? Is it distraction? Is it laziness? Just one thing. And now think of one thing you could do if that challenge shows up. So if this happens, what could I do about it? Okay. Now just check in with yourself. Notice how you feel. Are you feeling a bit calmer? Has your breathing slowed? Are you feeling a bit more clear-headed? Maybe a little bit more motivated? And you can come back to the podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed.
Yes.
Let us know how that was like. Was it your first ever time? Oh, first of all, just to tell you what you've just done. So the first thing was, this is the new tool for you, Bean, for when you're lying in bed and you need a mental reset. That's called a psychological sigh. And it was proved by Professor Andrew Huberman. And he's a...
recognized name.
For sure. He's got an amazing podcast that I'm definitely going to look up now.
Oh.
The podcast is called The Huberman Lab. Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Huberman. Come on to the podcast. We'd love to have you. So he launched this podcast in 2021, and it's now one of the top science podcasts. So it's scientific podcast. So he's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology in the Stanford School of Medicine. And he specializes his research on neuroplasticity. I love this word. So neuro is everything to do with the brain. So neuroplasticity is a study of how the brain changes. So this is looking into vision, stress, focus, sleep, and motivation. So I'm definitely going to look him up and listen to his podcast.
Definitely.
And one of his quotes is, "The brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences as much as you might think." So shout out to Susan Harden, the most wisest person of all.
Yes.
Another thing he said is, if you want to increase your ability to focus, train it like a muscle. Start small and build over time. So that's, for example, a bit like what we do with meditation. And then another thing he said that I found interesting was, dopamine is not just about pleasure, it's about pursuit. So you need a sense of progress to stay motivated.
Yeah, just a one hit of dopamine isn't going to do much. But if you have that kind of goal in mind and you have motivation and dopamine at different times in the journey, it's definitely going to help.
Exactly. And I think that's a really good moment to go onto the flow topic, because it kind of includes that. But just before doing that, just to explain a little bit why the psychological sigh works. So when you do a deep inhale through the nose, fills your lungs. If you then take a second shorter inhale, with whatever's left, you are totally inflating the lungs. So you're inflating the alveoli. I remember that from our last biology lesson, which was about a decade ago. So that allows more oxygen in. And then when you do your long, slow exhale, that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So that slows down your heart rate and it signals safety to the body. So it's a real body reset. It puts you in a good state of not panic and not anxiety and not having to defend yourself.
And again, all these things
reduces the fight or flight.
Yeah. All these things sound super obvious, like as we're saying them, I think. At least, it's the kind of thing that you think, well, obviously, because of the whole, your brain doesn't really distinguish. When what we get stressed about and what we are anxious about are such kind of intangible things. It's things, to do with work. It's not something as humans, we weren't built to be in that like stress kind of zone for long, because it would be when you were being chased. Exactly, being chased by a predator or anything like that. So it was something very quick, something that your body would fire up all these kind of, is it cortisol, the stress hormone? Whatever to like help you get away and get very energetic and very kind of like altered, I guess, so that you would have this energy to do whatever, but then it would be over. And now we live in this constant kind of, so what you were saying about the breath, when I feel like I'm totally overthinking to a state that I feel like my body isn't relaxed, taking a few deep breaths, there's actually inside of Headspace that has the like first thing to do in the morning is to take 60 seconds. And I think it's 6 seconds and 5 breaths. So it like counts you up, counts you down to do 5 breaths. And just that little 60-second reset of taking 5 slow breaths. I remember my mom would have lots of people to do courses with horses. That sounded weird.
It just rhymes really well.
Yeah. And a very big part of working with horses, and the way my mom does it, is to focus on the breath, because it gets you into your body and all that. And the amount of people who would get dizzy taking a deep breath, because it's not something people would ever do. Actually take a deep breath. People would actually get dizzy and
way
have to
too
sit
much
down.
oxygen.
Literally, it's crazy. So all these things sound obvious, but are we actually doing them and incorporating them to help us ourselves? So yeah, very interesting.
Super cool. So yeah, if you ever need a quick brain reset, try a mental sigh.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a yawn, not a sigh. Anyway, so the last topic of the day, and then we will be done with spirituality, at least for this season.
For now.
Maybe we'll do, for now. It's flow. So flow is something that Alba's a lot more of an expert in than I am. And I thought I would just start us off on this topic by telling a little story. So, I mean, you can fill in the gaps, but it was a really interesting happening. So Alba told me, was it 2 years ago now, that flow was your word of the year. And that was kind of the only context I got. I didn't really know what flow was. And I just thought, it's like, going with the flow. It's like flowing with whatever's going on. And I thought it was really cool. But I didn't really look into it. I didn't realize it was a philosophical concept. And then, I don't know, I think the day later, or maybe 2, but really, really soon after that, you know how Google does its things where on a certain person's birthday, it'll celebrate their life? And for some reason, this one, it caught my attention, and it didn't say flow or anything on it, and it was just a philosopher or an author or whatever he is. So I clicked on it. For some reason, I clicked on it. And I found that he was the author of a book called Flow, or what's it called?
Is it the one that I mentioned last week? Yeah. So I think it's Flow, the psychology. I looked it up to put it in the show notes for last week's episode. I said on the episode that it was the psychology of flow, but I think it actually is just flow and then the psychology of something else. But yeah.
Okay. So I came across this book, which I didn't know existed. I didn't know this guy existed. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it for Alba. Like, I don't often do these spontaneous purchases but I was like, I have to get it. Like, she told me 2 days ago that flow was her word. And now this book looks so interesting. I'm going to get it for her. And so I did. And I got it for her for Christmas, and then I gave it to her at Christmas. We actually saw each other in November because we were going to a concert. And I gave it to her, and she was like, thank you so much. I already have it. So she obviously already had this book, which is why she knew the concept of flow. I was unaware of all of this. But in the space between me getting this book and giving it to her, or you, I am talking to you, I read through it. I didn't read it all. I didn't have time to read through all of it, but I did read through a lot of it. And it introduced me to this concept, and I really, really enjoyed that. So it was just a really, really funny happening. And yeah, so that's nothing to do with flow. That's just a funny story.
Our little story, yeah.
That's how I came across the concept of flow.
I actually have no clue. I'm pretty sure I bought that book, the flow one that you gave me that I already had, that I have no idea how, because it's not something that, it's nothing to do with my mum, this one. And I have no idea where I found it, but when I did, I was like, and he's actually got another book on creativity, which I bought and I never read. And I'm like, I saw it the other day packing up, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode. I have to pack everything and decide where all my belongings are going. And I found it and I was like, I have to read this book. It's the same author, and it's just so interesting because he bases a lot of what he says on neuroscience and the why. It's not just like saying things for saying
them.
That's
why I love it so much. It was
exactly, it's so
scientific graphs and everything.
Yeah. So interesting.
So what is flow? All of this ratter-tatter chat. But what is flow? So I'm gonna try it. This was coined by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
You did a better job than me last week.
I apologize. Beautiful name. Flow is the psychological state of being fully immersed in a task where time seems to disappear and performance is optimized. So, what are the conditions for flow? So first of all, the performance being optimized is actually something that has been, I wouldn't say studied scientifically, but it has been analyzed. And the reports, for example, in McKinsey in 2013 showed that in a state of flow, people are up to 5 times more productive. So you could get done in one workday what other people could get done in a week if you do find yourself in this state of flow. And while I was prepping this episode, I was, like I said, in a car, and it was a very long car journey, and they asked me what I was doing, and I went blah, 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 blah. And then they asked me to, talk about flow, and then they asked, how do I get into the, how do I find flow? How do I find the...
Yeah. How do I get into that state? Yeah.
So according to Mihaly, there are 4 main conditions for flow. It's having very clear goals. Alba actually touched on this in our last episode. So having clear goals, having immediate feedback. So like you say, these little dopamine hits of getting the feedback and knowing whether you are achieving or whether you are not achieving. Having a good balance between challenge and skill. So being challenged, having to be concentrated, but not be too hard, but not be too easy. And then with that comes deep concentration. So you need to have to be really concentrated for this task to then find a state of flow. And it's a lot. I think lots of people find it in sport. You can be, if you're doing a really intense sport. So to these people that I was explaining, they were into volleyball. So I was like, when you're in that volleyball point that's been going on for like a little bit longer than usual, and you're like, I've got to get this. We've got to win this. And you have that really clear goal of, I have to get this point. You have that immediate feedback of, that was a good throw. Oh, that wasn't. And you're super, super concentrated. And obviously, in general, if you're in a really tight match, it's because you have a good balance between challenge and skill. Then you're likely to find a state of flow.
Yeah.
And then if you can find tasks that put you in this state for long periods of time or just short periods of time, it's honestly the most productive you can be. So it's when the most work can get done, and probably the best quality of work too.
Yeah. I think probably sport is one of the ones that people can relate to the most, because I think you can't do anything else when you're doing that sport. And I think because, like we were talking at the beginning of how overstimulated we are now, it's very hard for us to concentrate on one thing only nowadays. So in your work, how often is it that you are just concentrated on that one thing? You're not also taking a phone call, checking an email, 1,000 other things, and just concentrating on that one thing. In sport, you have no option. You have to be concentrated, or you're not doing it.
So then to go into the neuroscience behind it, I'm going to go through it quickly because it can get a bit intricate, but basically you're going into a state of, so you're deactivating the part of your brain that's responsible for planning, self-criticism, overthinking. So you're turning off that self-critical or just chatty part of your brain. You're releasing chemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins, which increase motivation and learning, like we said before. And it's associated with DMN, which is default mode network, which that's basically the scientific description of that mindset. So turning off the voices in your brain, basically. And it's similar to states that are achieved during deep meditation. So when you're really, really deep in meditation and you've had a lot of practice, then you can try and achieve this state that you can achieve in a state of flow. And it increases engagement, creativity, motivation, boosts productivity and satisfaction. So there you go. That's flow.
And there you go. Yeah.
If you could do you want to give maybe 2 examples of, or just one, of activities that tend to put you in a state of flow?
For me, the first one that I find very easy to get into, that is one of the first kind of ones that I maybe did, which then influenced what I went on to study at university, is video editing. When I'm editing a video, I'm so in it. And I think there, where you would see kind of get that immediate like gratification, is that as you go building the video, you go back, watch from the beginning, you see it and you go, oh, it's looking so good. And then you just want to carry on because you're like, so that's where you're getting that like immediate feedback and immediate like, this is going really well. This is exactly what I pictured, and it just kind of flows out of you. I also get it when I'm deep in a branding process. When I'm creating a brand, that takes a lot more, there's a lot more elements involved. So it maybe takes me a bit longer because I need to, check a lot of things and like before I can actually get into it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The setup is longer than with video editing. But when I'm in that and like ideas are coming to mind and I'm brainstorming, it also happens. So in work, I would say in day-to-day life, apart from exercise, which we've already talked about, I think most of us will feel it at some point while we're doing exercise. For me, it's cleaning. I love cleaning and I totally get into a flow. And for me, the instant gratification is just if I do a small space, and it's cleaning / reorganizing. Kind of, I normally do both at the same time. When I see a space and it's kind of what I'd pictured and what I wanted, for example, when I like put these plants up and like all that, for me, it's like instant, like it's what I'd pictured, it's what I'd imagined, and it looks so good. And, I want to do more because now I want my whole house to look like this. So yeah, in my day-to-day, I'd probably say organizing / cleaning.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I mean, I think it's such a good example of who you are and what your personality is. She's the master reorganizer.
Yeah, give me a DIY project and I will be the happiest person.
I think I can totally, we both know this, I can totally relate in video editing once you get into that. I mean, if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
We both wanted on that very early on. But yeah, I'm also very easily in a state of flow when I'm editing a video. Like you say, it requires a lot of concentration and you do have that instant gratification of being able to look over it and it being really exciting. Yeah. I think often I can get into a state of flow when I'm painting. If I don't paint very often, but when I do tend to paint for a lot longer than I expected. And the time does fly because I'm so concentrated and I'm really challenged, in my skill set, because obviously you try and do to the best of your capability and then you have that gratification of it's coming to life. Yeah. Randomly, I think I get into a bit of a state of flow when I'm doing pitch slides. I really enjoy it. And I'm constantly asking myself, like, is this clear? Is this going to get the message across? Oh, this looks so cool. Oh, I'm trying to get my idea across, Yeah. And then definitely climbing. When I'm climbing, I'm definitely in a state of flow because it's not necessarily the physical exertion, but it is the deep concentration. And yeah, we could do that for hours. Yeah. So we have managed to cover our 3 topics. I don't know how long we've been recording.
Yeah. I think we did quite well.
Good.
Considering it's a topic that we could talk about for hours on end.
Yeah. I did have a few questions, but I think we're just going to choose one. Okay. And that one is going to be, I tried meditating once and ended up spiraling about my to-do list. Am I doing it wrong?
No. I think it takes a very long time to be able to feel like, so often when it comes to meditation, I've only had experience with Headspace. So when I talk about, guided meditations, I'm not really at the place where I can do not guided meditations. I kind of can do like the breathing and stuff, but a whole like meditation, I struggle. So I don't know. I'm guessing probably this person has tried guided meditation. And in a lot of the sessions in Headspace, he will say things like, okay, your mind probably wandered off, but it's okay. Like bring it back. It's normal. One thing that they talk about a lot, or at least for me, it's stuck in my brain, is the idea that your mind is like a sky. And when it's clear of thoughts, you see the blue sky, but very often it's very cloudy. And if you think of each thought that's in your head, going through your head as a cloud, and the idea is to get to the blue sky underneath, it's there. You just have to get to it. That really helps me. And when I'm trying to meditate, and for whatever reason, even now it still happens, things are coming to mind constantly, I try and think of it as a cloud. And rather than don't think of it, because that never works, I try and give it space to kind of move out of my head. Like, I've acknowledged it, now stop thinking about it. Like, let it move out. So it's a cloud of movement, not one that's just stuck there. Yeah. So yeah, I think it just takes practice. It's a muscle. It's like saying, I've just started weightlifting today and I can't lift 50 kilos. Am I doing it wrong? No, you're not. It just takes a while to get there. And yeah, I think even with experience, you can have days that it's harder.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing it now every day for 6 months and I still struggle with getting too many thoughts, and it's you're definitely not doing it wrong, because meditation is about being aware. And as long as you're acknowledging that you are spiraling, or that you did get that thought, even if it's 5 minutes in, like you've been spiraling for 5 minutes, it's fine. If you've acknowledged it, then you've gotten a step closer to that mindful state. It will get easier and easier, and you'll find what works for you. I had a friend tell me, I can't meditate because I always fall asleep. Just find what works. So if you always fall asleep, try sitting up, try doing it with your eyes open. It's a tool for you, so make it work for what works for you. And if you've only tried once, then it doesn't surprise me. It would surprise me if your mind didn't spiral.
Yeah, especially nowadays when we are so used to overthinking all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So give it another go.
Yeah.
And see.
I have a friend who can only meditate when she does it when she goes out on walks in nature. And then she'll meditate. Sometimes it's guided, sometimes it's not. So it's while she's walking. And I would recommend, with anything in life, make it easy to do the right thing. Always. This is something maybe my mum, somebody told me in reference to animals. It might have even been someone when I was trying to train my dog. I'm not sure. But with animals, it's always, you always try and make it so it's easy for them to do the right thing. And I think it's something that we should do for ourselves. And at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about creating a space where your brain knows what's coming. So like the same as that when you get to the gym, you're like ready, and your body and your brain know that this is the place where you work out. Well, create a space, even if it's just a chair in a corner or whatever, wherever. For my friend, it's being in nature. It's where her brain's like, okay, now where this movement and this surrounding means that I can turn off. If you create that space for yourself, it's going to make it easier. But everything comes with practice. The first time doing something, it would be very impressive if you did it amazingly.
Yeah. So get working, strengthening that muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the end of this brilliant episode. I had so much fun.
So much fun. I was so looking forward to this from the beginning when we said about doing it. I was like, I can't wait to get to episode 14.
Now what?
Now what? Well, now what? Next week we're doing trust. And it's trust in the workplace. But this is such a broad topic. I was like, okay, where to focus this? And I'm actually so excited. Originally, we were going to record 2 episodes in a one or today. And I was so excited. So it's like, no, it's okay. We'll do it another day. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for it. It's, because we've kind of, where my mind immediately went are things that we've already talked about. I mean, I'll get into this in the episode, but we've already talked about workplace dynamics and working with other people and how trust is a big part of that. So that is something that we'll touch on, but there's so much more to it. So yeah, we're going to be talking about trust and how to rebuild trust, because I think that can be harder than just trusting to begin with. Oh yeah. Yes, we will be
exciting.
Talking about these things in next week's episode.
And we're coming to the end of our first season. Yeah. It's approaching. What an experience.
Yeah, we are hoping to finish off with an interview, as we've only managed to fit in one this season. Nothing is totally confirmed yet, but I think we might have talked about it a little bit in previous episodes. But yeah, we're hoping to do an interview with a very different person to us, as our first interview was with someone who was around our age, also a woman. There was a lot of things that were very similar. So this is with someone that's completely different generation, sex, everything. So we're hoping to finish off the season with a bang with that. And that would be the end of the first season. 16 episodes. Crazy.
It's flown
I can't
by.
quite believe
it's
it.
Gone by so fast.
So quickly. I
think
cannot believe
we need
it.
to give ourselves a little pat on the back.
We really
Give yourself
do.
a little pat on the back, please. Thank you. It's been such an experience. But yeah, we really can't wait to hear about what you've thought and what you've enjoyed the most and what would you like to see more of. Yeah. We'd be really excited to get more people on, more interviews. Yeah. That's something that really motivates us, and start to build a bit of a community around our podcast. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Stick around for that.
Absolutely. We have structured our seasons with kind of a broad topic. So this first one was just kind of about the human element in general, whatever that may mean. And you've seen all the different things that we've touched on within that. We want to dive into mental health in the workplace in the next season. But this is just something to kind of organize ourselves, because there are so many things that we want to talk about. We just had no idea where to even begin. So we decided that by doing it like this with kind of general topics with subtopics underneath would be the easiest way. But we're not strict about it. So if there's anything that comes up that people seem to be very interested in, or if we did need to revisit anything that we've talked about in this first season, those are things that we are obviously very up for. So yeah, please let us know on any of our social media, on the comments on this episode down below, anywhere you would like. And yeah, I guess the only thing left to say is that if you know anybody that you think would like this podcast or would maybe benefit from it, if you can share it with them, that would be very appreciated. And yeah.
And thanks for being around. Thanks for listening yourself. It makes it makes our dream come true. So just simply having you and maybe bringing you a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of tips and tricks to make the working life a little bit more easy, then that's our dream come true. So
all we could ever hope for and wish for. So thank you very much, and we will see you next week in Trust.
Woo.